Somebody's knocking at your door. Somebody's knocking at your door. Oh, sinner, why don't you answer? Somebody's knocking at your door. Knocks like Jesus. Somebody's knocking at your door. Knocks like Jesus. Somebody's knocking at your door. Oh, sinner, why don't you answer? Somebody's knocking at your door. In today's gospel reading, we see that nothing could ruffle the feathers of the holy elite class of Israel faster than pointing to outsiders whose faith and obedience brought them into the ranks of God's chosen people. Jesus obviously had the ear of the priest class of his day. He could have jumped through hoops, navigated the system, and become a teacher within the established ranks of society. But he remained an outsider, ministered to outsiders, and reminded us constantly that no one is truly outside of God's grace and redeeming love. Sister Joan Chittister reflects on this through a personal experience when she writes, "Only a Samaritan returned to thank him. Try replacing the word Samaritan with something else, something closer to home, as in, only the man with the black leather jacket and tattoos returned to thank him, or only the foul-mouthed teenage girl returned to thank him. Got it? That's what this scripture is really about. Life is full of surprises, all of them holy, if we are holy enough to receive them. For me, the lesson came home with the greatest clarity in a strange country some years ago. I had become separated from my group in a cramped, sinuous, crowded bazaar on one side of a huge, dirty city in the Middle East. I was now a woman, alone, surrounded by leering, staring men for whom a woman alone was easy prey. I had no idea whatsoever of where to go, just exactly what all the guides said must never happen. I elbowed my way up an incline out of a dark passage that separated the tiny boutiques, fighting with panic and anger. The sun was finally cooling down for the day, but on the other side of it was night. I recognized nothing and no one. I couldn't read store signs. I couldn't use a telephone book or call a cab. I couldn't speak a single word of Arabic to ask for directions. Suddenly, a man, toothless, ragged, and dirty, began screaming at me, jabbing in the air in my direction, running toward me with a stiff and twisted leg. I was trapped in a sea of scrambled cars with my back to the wall of a mosque and my legs had gone to pulp. He was lurching around cars over hoods, trying to get at me. I began running wildly in the opposite direction. Suddenly, a young boy began chasing me too. No, lady, stop, he shouted as he grabbed me. It's all right. He's only trying to tell you that your taxi is over there, on the other side. I blushed, a deep, hot blush, ashamed to look at the crumpled man who had finally caught up with me, gasping for breath and totally frustrated. I learned something about the Samaritans of the world that day. Scripture is teaching us not to count anybody out. Scripture is telling us to be open to surprise. Scripture is telling us that every person we meet is a potential source of life for us, if only there is enough heart in us to accept it. Today, let us take a moment to reflect on the people in our lives that maybe we've counted out. What could they teach us about life, ourselves, and God? Jesus calls you, somebody